I have 2 bottles. One is for cold water. The other?
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
Hey everybody, and welcome to MOTORSLICE, a really strange game sometimes.
Hey look, I found some weird holes.
What the hell?
So strange that at some point, it damn near made me quit the damn thing.
I have sand all over my body. It's coarse and rough. It's everywhere. Even in my boots.
Well, what the hell? Sniff, sniff? Sniff, sniff? Boy, what the hell is you doing? What kind of game is this? I thought they said it was Mirror's Edge.
Look away, bot.
Honey came in and she got me red-handed, creepy with the girl next door.
Now, if the scriptures are to be believed, there's probably about 30% of you watching for whom that's actually enough of a selling point to close the video off and go buy the game. It's like, okay, thanks for the review, Daz, I'll see you on the next one. But for me, it kinda just made me regret having eyes. But with that kind of thing aside though, I still stuck through the game chapter after chapter more than once in what ended up being a damn decent action-adventure parkour game set inside of a megastructure. You play as this girl, her name is unknown but she goes by the letter P. You are a slicer, which is a type of contractor or mercenary sent to massive megastructures to slay corrupted rogue machines. And there is a lot of interesting world building hidden behind the loose dialogues. Though to be fair, that description makes it all sound way cooler than what you actually see in the game. Because really what you're doing is beating the ever-loving smack out of old construction or farming equipment with the occasional "what the hell is even that?" type of machine that shows up, such as this mech thing halfway through the game. And there is so little in terms of story and world building, all of it paced so poorly, that I wouldn't blame anyone for thinking that the game doesn't even have any of that. In this video, I'm going to tell you all about this game. We are going to go over the gameplay loop first and then take a deep dive into that hidden story and world building section. Obviously, this is an indie game. It was made by a regular studio which is composed of just 2 people and it is being sold for 20 bucks, so I will temper my criticism accordingly, but I'll also say what I gotta say. It is what it is, if for nothing else then in hopes that it serves as feedback for their future games, because future games are all but confirmed right now given how successful the game has already been. It made back its investment in just a few hours. MOTORSLICE has even gotten itself a small but passionate community sharing loads of fan art of the game. This is something that some AAA games don't even manage to get, so yeah. We will be seeing more MOTORSLICE, and I would love nothing more than to see what makes it good get better and what makes it bad be revamped completely. So without further ado, let's get in there. So you play as P. She's a very agile protagonist. You get sent into a brutalist post-apocalyptic megastructure that is very urban-like. The gameplay in this is very simple. You run, jump, climb, wall run, and roll through various environmental hazards on your way to the top. In other words,
Parkour!
the game has 8 chapters, and as you proceed through them, things get a bit more complex when it comes to the environmental hazards that you find and the types of moves that you have to pull to get through them. In the beginning, a couple of jumps will suffice, but later on, you gotta string jumps, wall runs, motor slices, and at some point even machine kills just to get through an area. Though none of it was really ever that difficult, to be honest. I mean, the game has a very good checkpoint system where even if you die a lot, which is going to be a normal thing because of something everything else that I'll mention, you won't have to backtrack much. In fact, sometimes the checkpoint system was a bit broken and it ended up placing me ahead of the places that I died in. I can confirm that this is a bug though. In later playthroughs, I died in the same spots and got reset back to a checkpoint rather than ahead of it. The variety in this place is not going to be that much, but the game does do enough to differentiate each chapter in each area from the ones before that at least. Initially, you're mostly wall running, sliding under tight spots, swinging on support bars, etc. Basic stuff in a familiar place, which is a city, but in later levels, you're being propelled by giant fans and avoiding saw blades while slicing through metal in very industrial and forgotten looking places of the megastructure. Now when it comes to difficulty and dying, the majority of my deaths honestly came from wonky controls, for example the slicing, and this will be a tip that I wish that I knew earlier going into the game, so pay attention. And if you don't understand, please leave a comment and I'll try to explain it as best as I can. Maybe even upload a clip to X or something, I don't know. So the idea for motor slicing is that if you approach a wall sideways, you will slice sideways. If you approach it facing the wall, you will slice upwards. In later chapters, the game throws motor slicing platforms to the complexity of the levels, in which you must change directions in mid-air while slicing. This was a massive pain in my ass for most of my first playthrough. And I've seen loads of clips from people having the exact same problem as me, making the same mistake. In which, for example, we're slicing sideways, we stop to change direction, and we press up on the analog stick to make her go up, or we're going up and we try to do the same thing to make her go sideways. When that doesn't work, we start trying to angle the camera towards the wall and then pressing up, something that can be a bit annoying on the controller, and even then, the success chance is like 50-50 at best, which is what made so much of these more complex locations where the game throws slicing walls at you in multiple angles, plus traps on the walls that kill you in one shot feel terrible. Turns out that all you have to do is just press your analog stick to whichever side you want P to rotate to. So in other words, you're not supposed to use the controls to make P face the wall, you're supposed to just rotate her, which is as simple as pressing the analog stick left or right. That's it. Doesn't matter where you're facing, just left or right and she will rotate. Face the wall and she'll go up, face the sides and she'll go towards whichever side you're pointing to. Just figuring this out made these sections become a total breeze. However, there are other issues in the parkour department that are akin to old Assassin's Creed games, if you've ever played them, where you'll be wall running and then pressing to side eject, but the character would instead eject backwards into his doom or vice versa. That's present in this game too, and it's these little annoyances that are going to count the most towards your death toll, rather than any inherent difficulty in the level design or the combat. That stuff is actually really easy and accessible. I think even people who aren't used to playing many of these kinds of games are going to be just fine, because there's no like precision jumping either or anything like that. It's mostly a breeze. The platforming is what is at the core of everything you'll do in this game. I wish I had more to say about it, but there really isn't much else here. There's some funky additions here and there. For example, in a Mirror's Edge-like kind of way, if you approach a low-height platform and you press the jump button, P will either step on it or vault it. If you hold the jump button, P will use it as a booster to jump further. But then in a non-Mirror's Edge kind of way, momentum does not play a role in how you move. You don't run faster the more moves you string together and the more you flow through the levels. And your speed doesn't have an impact on how much further your jumps are going to go or how quick your slides are. You have a set speed and you have a set jump distance, I guess. This impacts replayability quite a bit, because you basically realize that even though you are getting better at handling the game, you understand the mechanics better, etc., there aren't many ways in which you can exploit it and have fun, since there's a cap on how fast you run, slide, and how far your jumps go. And by the way, I'm saying exploit as in a natural exploit, not bugs, know what I mean? Because I'm sure that there will be people finding bugs and speedrunning this game in like 30 seconds or something. Exploiting levels comes more from finding shortcuts, which, funnily enough, allow you to skip big sections in some areas. So while you may see some people refer to this as a Mirror's Edgy kind of game, it's not. It feels much more like a Prince of Persia kind of game when it comes to most of what you'll be doing, with a hint of Shadow of the Colossus when it comes to fighting bosses. Speaking of bosses, Besides the platforming, there's the combat and the exploration for these little collectible drones. Let's do exploration first, and then let's get to the combat. Exploration is extremely light in MOTORSLICE, and it's here that you can find a lot of buried potential for what could have made this game miles better. Because really the extent of the exploration here amounts to small little detours in the areas that you're passing through to pick up these floating balls. You have your own as well. It's your drone through which you interact with the character as her operator from Central. It is alluded to that each slicer has their own little orb drone, which indirectly means that each drone you find probably belonged to a slicer before you. But we'll get to that a little bit later during the story section of the video. Finding these orbs doesn't get you anything, and therein lies the problem. Their sole function is that they serve as an extra life for combat. When you fight machinery, it's a one-shot, one-kill situation for both yourself and the machines. Or at least it sort of was. I'll get to it in the combat in a bit. The point is that if you carry, for example, 5 of these orbs around with you, you can get hit 5 extra times. If you carry 2, that's 2, etc. That's it. These orbs don't serve any other function and don't award you any other thing. You don't even need to collect them for an achievement. You can still get 100% completion by just leaving them, scattered around the world. There's no incentive or reward for going out of your way to pick them up. When I realized this, I was nearing the end of my first playthrough, and yeah, I never went for them again. Because the game isn't even hard enough to the point where you could use those extra lives. The only other thing you can do with them is you can kind of use them in combat as an offensive tool. It's not easy to do this, and you kind of have to do it before the enemy aggroes onto you, but you can smack your orbs in the direction of the enemies, which then freezes them. It's a nice little gimmick, but meh, you know what I mean? Like, it's just extra work that breaks the flow of the game when you can just kill the enemies very easily. There's only one type of these orbs that I usually go for, which are the ones that have a different light color. Instead of just picking them up and they follow you to an extraction point, these ones initiate a time trial where you need to collect a string of them and then run to the finish line. They can be a little decent extra side challenge. Now, why did I bring up that each one of these orbs belong to a slicer? Well, because one other thing this game is suffering from is that there's very little narrative to grab onto. We will go deeper into this in the story section, but this game loves to basically tease a much wider, deeper, and more interesting lore behind everything going on, which made me desperately want to learn more. Adding some form of lost audio recordings or notes from previous slicers to these lost drones would have been a perfect way to flesh out the megastructure that we're on and the wider universe of MOTORSLICE. There's so many drones around and so little information about what a slicer is, what is an array megastructure that we're on, where did the machines come from, why are they corrupted, what is the corruption, what's with all the goddamn sand everywhere. I mean, it's coarse, it gets into... Anyway, why exactly do slicers suffer a fate worse than death? What does the word overwrite mean? So on and so forth. The game was just begging for it, and I would also have appreciated some kind of cosmetic reward as well, not gonna lie. The game is begging for it too, because P, our protagonist, was given a lot of attention by the developer. In fact, some would say too much attention, given the fact that in your interactions with her, you can straight up simp dialogue her into freaking out.
I'm all sweaty from running all day in this uniform. Didn't think I would say this, but I miss the MSC Tick 12 beach biome already.
This is haram! Haram! Send her to Saudi!
So some different outfits to collect as big goals for drones saved would have been fantastic. Like, I don't know, maybe one outfit variation or accessory or different hairstyle each 10 or 20 drones saved, you know what I mean? Something like that. Because as it stands, there's really no reason to go out of your way to get these orbs. Some of them can be kind of challenging to pick up, where you're like, huh, how do I even get over there? But a lot of them are just sitting there off the beaten path, which break the flow of the game when you're heading out to get them. Besides these orbs, the only other thing this game has is these slack-off locations where you get to take a break and interact with P. That's where that foot thing came from, by the way. Some of them are just done to be humorous, others are done to flesh out P a little more and give some respite.
Hey, wanna see something cool? Nice view. Sometimes this job is not that bad. What's wrong with these machines? The top is right there. Just build a staircase. Simple.
Or waste your time with information that you never asked for.
I have 2 bottles. One is for cold water. The other? It's coffee.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
And others are done to give you a bit of lore and world building.
Could this be the place Central is looking for? An alpha structure that can control all the machines. Do you think that's true? I've been doing this for so long. It's probably just a myth.
So keep that in mind for the story section, because there's a rant incoming. But for now, let's talk about combat. Between the combat and the exploration, there are areas where the game throws a few low-level machines at you. The variety is very small, it's basically 3 types of machine. These little excavator things, they basically rush at you and try to smack you with a bucket part of it. These flying construction drones with tentacles, they basically just fire off saws at you. And then these bigger concrete roller things which charge towards you very quickly. Again, I wasn't kidding when I said that what you do in this game is massacre construction and farming equipment. For the excavators and the drones, all you gotta do is hit them once. You can also parry the saw blades in midair, hit them once more and you deflect them right back to sender, which is pretty satisfying. For the excavators, you can parry their attacks as well, creating an opening, but honestly, it doesn't matter, they're very easy to kill. The roller things, on the other hand, must be sliced on the highlighted yellow parts around its body. Everything in this game kills you with one shot, except the excavators. Back in the demo, they were one shot, one kill too, but I guess the developer made them a bit easier in the final release. Just like with the environmental part of the levels, these sections where they throw enemies at you get a little more complicated with just more enemy numbers towards the later chapters. On one occasion it even gets quite creative where you have to get a cable car moving and then use it to reach the other side of a chasm. But you can't just ride it out on top of the cable car because, remember, your job here in the megastructure is to kill all machines you encounter. So there are some barriers impeding you from moving further into a level if you left machines alive. Or rather, sometimes. So anyway, you gotta use the cable car to swing around between platforms to dispatch enemies and then jump back onto the cable car so that you can reach to your destination. On this other spot near the end, there's loads of machines crammed into this crumbling interior area, but the whole thing is actually coming down, so your job is not to kill them all, it's just to outrun the destruction. I would love to see more creative use of enemies in a potential sequel just like this, rather than just throwing a bunch of machines into a sandpit. Combat in this game is a very basic one-button ordeal. It's a bit wonky too, it doesn't flow very well, but I do like the idea of the one-hit, one-shot condition for both P and the enemies. There's one more thing I'd like to bring up a little later during the spoiler section though, so keep it in mind for now. Now the reason I said sometimes back there is because some areas don't force this rule on you where you have to take out every machine. And it's also where it feels like some of the exploits were even put there deliberately by the developer. For example, take this room. There are 5 saw drones in front of you. They can't see you from there, meaning that you cannot be attacked by their saw blades, which means that you can't parry them from a distance. It also has no way to traverse to the other side of the room using only the walls. So you assume that what the game wants you to do here is wall run and jump around using these blue moving platforms, and then use the saw drones as platforms by using a mechanic in the game where if you jump and hit an enemy in midair, you can jump off of them before they fall down. So basically, use the drones as a bridge. However, the wall running and ejecting can be quite a pain in the ass, as I mentioned earlier. So in one of my playthroughs, I tried to skip all of this nonsense by using these rafters that run above the room. I really hope I have footage of it, but basically what you can do is just wall run and eject to get up there, just do a little bit of fuckery and it's easy. And then just run above the rafters towards the exit, and there will not be any enemy block forcing you to take out the machines. So yeah, sometimes in some locations you will see the block, other times you won't. In regards to the nature of the combat, in general, this game is basically at its best when everything is flowing constantly, meaning areas that use enemy positioning creatively, like this. Where you're zapping around from platform to platform, wall to wall, enemy to enemy in a string of movement. Some other areas are more ample though, enemies are tossed in and you kinda just run around after them or vice versa. These are fine too, so long as the flow isn't interrupted too much with bad enemy placement. Nobody is playing this game for the difficulty in combat after all. Which brings us to the bosses. The bosses in this game are more big construction or farming equipment, except for that one big mech thing that I showed you guys in the intro. You don't smack these ones. What you do is you have to motor slice their orange parts, or yellow, whatever, it's their weak parts. Bosses have health bars that you deplete as you slice each of these weak spots. They do pose a threat to you, like some of them have saw blades or machinery to attack you with. The ones that don't can basically run over you, but again, the focus here isn't to 1v1 them, it isn't to fight them in a way that you would fight a Dark Souls boss or a dragon in Dragon's Dogma. The point is to climb them and motor slice the weak spots, which is why the flow rule is even more important for them than the environments. The most satisfying way to take these on is to have a string of movement that you can follow while slicing those weak spots all the way to the top. And while most of the bosses did apply this well enough, some did not, and they felt like shit to fight, or were just awkward. For example, your second boss in this game is this helicopter thing. The idea here is using the environment to jump and reach the helicopter as it flies around to start slicing, like this. To make this harder for you, the helicopter has a saw blade launcher, but you can parry those saw blades. Once you do, the helicopter even tumbles down, letting you get a freebie where you can cut one of its 2 health bars off. But then after it gets back up in the air, for some reason the saw blades were broken. Now I don't know if this is a deliberate decision to block players from parrying it again, which would make it too easy to slice the second health bar, or if it's just a bug or whatever, but the helicopter boss was now just fucking flying around me without doing anything. It wasn't launching any more saw blades, which was a bit awkward. This one was also very awkward. It's the 4th boss. It's I don't know, some kind of train with cranes on it? It rides on these 2 tracks here, round and round and round it goes, infinitely. You can totally avoid it by just standing still on the edge of the track, it will not flatten you. And the idea here is that you can use these poles in the middle of the arena to jump up on the train. Alternatively, you can parry the cranes, which will stop it for a bit and allow you to slice your way up the crane, and then bada bing bada boom, you're on top of the train. And it's fine. but it doesn't flow very well. The weak spots are in awkward positions and some of them don't flow into anything, they just eject you from the train, which means that you have to once again get on top of the poles and climb up, or parry the crane again with no danger. As I said before, the no danger part is not a big deal for me as long as there's a flow to the slicing, making it satisfying. But when both of these are not present, it kinda makes this entire thing just look silly. It makes these machines look like a bit of a joke. They just wobble around doing jack shit while being presented as these incredibly dangerous things that usher the destruction of the world as we know it. The mech, for example. It's a bit silly because, I mean, look at it. It's this massive mech. It's very intimidating at first. But then, it kinda just walks towards you. No lasers, no bullets, no saw blades. Bro's just walking, you know? And has no defenses whatsoever built into itself, which is also silly lore-wise because the machines know the slicers, they know what they are and what they do, and the structure even activates defenses against you when it detects your presence. Basically, more traps start popping up in the environment to stop you, indicating even that the structure itself has some kind of way of mechanically changing itself to adapt to threats or just keep building itself up indefinitely. So some of these bosses, while looking cool and while having a nice flowing path to platform and slice up towards the top, such as the mech, do feel incomplete in that more could have been put into them to make it tougher and more intimidating for us to beat them. Boss number 6 was especially annoying. It's some kind of farming thing, like, I don't know dude, maybe it tills the land, maybe it harvests some potatoes, maybe it does both, hell, maybe it does neither because there's no farms and no potatoes anywhere. But regardless, this boss, as far as I noticed, is the only one where you have to parry it in order to defeat it. See, pretty much every boss and every little enemy can be parried in some way, shape or form in this game. If this game wasn't called MOTORSLICE, it would have been called Motor Parry or some shit, I don't know. It was part of the marketing trailers for the game and everything. Hell, even some of the environment traps can be parried, making them stop for a moment to ease your passage. But it's never forced. There's always other ways to beat a boss, like for example the poles that I mentioned in the train crane machine thing. For big farming chungus here though, it was mandatory to parry it because one of the weak spots is under itself, so you gotta flip it over. This was fine, but the other weak spots to slice are so poorly positioned that it made this boss fight take far longer than it should have, as I kept being ejected to the ground and then having to use the fans to climb up on the machine again. It's not difficult, there's nothing about it that is like, oh my goodness, what will I do? How do I defeat this thing? Nah, it's none of that, it's just that it's a slog because the positioning of the weak spots and the structure of the boss itself doesn't flow very well. And that's about it for the bad ones. The others ranged from fun to serviceable. The last one even applied the thing that I talked about in the mech, where the machine itself kinda fights you back a little bit by employing traps. That's pretty much everything combat-wise. The game prioritizes the flowing nature of the movement and enemy position to keep you going smoothly. And this obviously makes the game a lot different from what you would expect from a more standard action-adventure Prince of Persia type of game, so take that into account as well if you're thinking about buying it or not. It's not exactly Prince of Persia, it's not Mirror's Edge in the slightest, it's not even anything like Nightling or these other types of games that are coming out now, or actually Nightling is about a year old, but something called Dusk Fate just came out, kinda reminiscent of old PS2 action games like Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, you know, stuff like that, but MOTORSLICE is none of them. It's pretty much its own thing. That is the hidden potential of MOTORSLICE screaming out from an empty void. It's the culmination of every abandoned or vaguely presented element the game didn't capitalize on to flesh out its own story and lore. Because if you ask most people who played this game, they'll tell you that there is no real story, no substantial anything to grab onto. It's just an indie parkour game with an anime waifu, and well, that's all that it needs to be because hey, it's only 2 developers and it's only $20. But then what does that say for Metal Garden? Earlier this year I made a video about that game. It's one of the experiences that made me stop and think quite a lot because of the interesting megastructure world and environmental storytelling that it presented, plus the presentation of a totally mind-bending twist at the end. Metal Garden did that, and it's also an indie game, and a $6 one at that. Though I don't really like to bring up the price, it's just that other people do as an excuse to say that what we got is fine. And I'm not here to rag on MOTORSLICE for it too much because, you know from my previous videos that I do like it. But there is such a massive amount of buried potential here that I have to talk about, if for nothing else than to serve as valuable feedback for any potential sequel, because good enough is only good enough for as long as you get lucky. At first glance, MOTORSLICE is very superficial. Not a lot went into developing either our character or the world or the location that we're in. As I said earlier, the small bits and pieces of context you get come from those slacking off moments where sometimes a detail or two is shared briefly. And if you skip these slacking off moments, which you can by running right past them, then there's pretty much nothing there because again, there are no audio logs or notes left throughout exploration. Nobody talks to you via radio or anything like that. There are no villain machines that drop a clue or another. You are kind of just running, jumping and slicing from level to level in a game that lasts for about 5 to 10 hours. You really have just one piece of information at the start. You are Slicer P. You have arrived at an array megastructure, your job is to slay all the rogue machines affected by some kind of corruption, and that failure is forbidden.
This is Slicer P. I have arrived at the target destination. As suspected, it is an array megastructure. Requesting Central Slicer's operator. Over.
This is Operator G to Slicer P. Understood. Proceed with extreme caution, and remember, destroy every machine in this godforsaken place.
Roger. Commencing contract at MSC TIC 16.
Failure is forbidden.
Failure is forbidden.
Beyond that, you will learn more about her beverage preferences than you will know about what the hell is going on here.
Ay, ay. Hey, what do you think? Suits me?
This is because the developers treated the slice-of-life bits of this game interacting with P in the exact same way and landing them the exact same time as the bits of the game flashing out the lore. And the reason why this doesn't work is because while a cute little cutscene of P eating cookies and asking a mechanical drone whether it wants some or not is enough to make the player go, "Aw," the same can't be said for this scene, for example.
Cement. They've started another overwrite. Damn machines. I'm getting tired of that, Norby. I should look for a different structure sub-foundation after this job.
Like, what do you mean they started another override? This term about an override is dropped 2 or 3 more times throughout the game, but it never really is enough to give players a concrete, no pun intended, idea as to what it might mean.
A tomb. Any idea how many overwrites it might have? It's better not to stay for too long in a place like this, Orby. I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it was artificially made, huh? Grass is grass. The machines have been doing this for so long, everything might have been already overwritten. Even you, Orby. Shh! Don't let Central hear I was saying such things.
And by all means, this isn't me wanting everything to be fed to me. Metal Garden didn't feed you the answers either, but it actually gave you a lot more information and interconnected context. That is what allowed you to kinda sit back, relax with some peach iced tea, put on some contemplative music and let your creative juices flow as you try to string together what's going on. And the questions left in the air were exciting rather than annoying. In Metal Garden, the questions were a crescendo. You find weird things that pose questions. Then as you keep playing, you find more information that fleshes out the setting, allowing you to get a decent baseline idea of what it is that you're inside of, some elements about how it works, and the factions that exist in it. There are still questions hanging in the air, of course, but you got an established rule set of who you are, what you're inside of, and what the goal is. Then, as you get closer and closer to the end, shit gets weirder. Not because it throws vague terms at you that make no sense, because they're an in-universe thing that hasn't been explained to you yet, but because it alludes to the possibility that what you're inside of is not what you think. And then by the end, boom, the big twist that shatters that reality, and one final log that stops you in your tracks and makes the structure all the more exciting and interesting. If you guys haven't watched my video yet on Metal Garden, I will leave it down in the comments and the description. I totally recommend it. For MOTORSLICE, on the other hand, the questions are, what the fuck does overwrite refer to? See what I mean? The very mechanisms that compose the foundation of the megastructure that we're in, and also at least the tiniest little bit of story and history as to the world that we exist in, are not fleshed out. And there is a fine line between something feeling ominous and mysterious and just feeling lazy, incomplete, or just not feeling like anything. Like some of the players out there that don't even care about this being a megastructure and are kind of just parkouring around and, I don't know, taking foot pictures of the protagonist.
What are you doing?
Let me tell you about all these loose pieces of information I found and what I think they mean. By then, maybe you will understand why this game actually does have depth. It just doesn't feel like it was prioritized and explored, or perhaps the execution just wasn't the best. So let's jump into it right now, and don't worry, when we get to the one spoiler that the game has, I'll warn you about it in case you want to skip it or click off the video. Even though, again, so much was undercooked in this aspect of the game that the spoiler isn't even a big deal, but either way, I'll give the warning when we get there. The world of MOTORSLICE is extremely alien to us. It's a world where I'm not even sure humanity exists in the same form that we recognize it as. There are references to ancient events, some kind of catastrophe or catastrophes, plural, that happened thousands of years ago.
Hey, isn't that a mural over there? No idea what it's saying. Can you figure out something? Thousands of years later, and we are still cleaning their mess.
It's never really made clear exactly what that was. We don't know the nature of what caused the apocalypse. Was it a virus that corrupted them? Was it a rogue AI kind of thing? Is it perhaps tied to some outer space event, or maybe some supernatural or crazy beyond human sci-fi thing? We know this latter one exists in the game, more on that later, but we don't know exactly what happened. What we do know is that the remnants of humanity seemingly reside in some place called Central, where the Slicer organization is headquartered at. Slicers are basically a very special kind of contractor / mercenary who exists solely to track down these massive megastructures, infiltrate them, and cull the machines. The job is also alluded to being unending, something that they've been doing since forever, and that is just routine now. Pot of P's personality and demeanor even show that very well. This is really just another job for her, one amongst many. There's nothing special about it, except when on chapter 3, after defeating 2 bosses, P wonders if maybe this is a fabled alpha structure.
2 Elden machines in a single array? I have a feeling, Orby, this is the one. This is definitely an alpha structure. I can feel it. There's something off about this place. Does this this mean we're gonna find an elder on each layer of the structure? Ugh, this is not good. But weren't these things sealed away in the Age of Isolation?
Another great question is right there. What was the Age of Isolation? When exactly was that? What made it get that name? Who sealed what? I mean, I guess we know what. It's these Elden machines, but where did they seal it? Inside of mega structures like this? Or did they escape somehow? There's just very little to go on. We just know something big happened thousands of years ago. We know these massive structures are basically massive automata type of machines populated with more machines, including the bosses, and we also know that the alpha structure is something that is sought after by the slicers, because they, or it, I don't really know if there's more than one alpha structure, can control all the machines. And to slice back to my previous point, this has become a monotonous routine for slicers like P. That's why hardly anything that she's seeing phases her. It's why she'll stop by and have a snack while chatting with her drone. That's why she will ask the damn drone what does it think about her hairstyle if she were to tie it behind her head. A chunk of this is because slicers are locked onto this job day in, day out, going around defeating machines for thousands of years while looking for the elusive alpha structure, which has pretty much become a legend that some slicers like P aren't even sure is real or not.
Could this be the place Central is looking for? An alpha structure that can control all the machines. Do you think that's true? I've been doing this for so long. It's probably just a myth. Well, it doesn't matter. My job here is to hunt down machines. Reaching the top is just part of the job well done.
Who knows how long this has been going for, but this is the state of the world. It's an apocalypse stuck in an endless loop of emptiness. Especially because I think that what they mean by overwrites is that at some point, the mega structure itself, regardless of the machine slain by the slicers, resets. It rebuilds itself. We can even see it in the environment. For example, from this area here, we can take a look over in that direction and we don't just see buildings in ruins, but we also see that the color of the concrete is different in some of them, making it seem like something that is older inside of that same area, part of a previous iteration of the megastructure. If we look down that direction to those waterfalls of sand, we see another distinct type of building material. This entire section here, actually one of my favorite areas in the game as we progress through to fight the third boss, is all technically underground. There's sunlight because parts of the roof layer have holes in them, and other parts of it are facing a whole damn canyon that stretches as far as the eye can see with nothing but sand. All this stuff built down here also looks much older and distinct from the other areas. So many of these places just don't gel together. They're all interconnected by this sky bridge, but that's pretty much the only thing that they have in common. If we look up, we even see this... I don't even know what to call it exactly. It looks kind of like a gigantic wing of an airplane, but it twists. It's hard to describe. It's unlike anything else in this place. We often also see pipes leading to seemingly nowhere and abandoned pillars holding up nothing. Whatever they were holding up is certainly not there anymore. All of this is a sign that the structure shapeshifts over time. You can also find these things. They look like excavators, except they are just basically made out of sandstone. P refers to them as sarcophagi. She says that she's glad that the job doesn't entail cleaning them up, only the machines, and that if it did entail the sarcophagi as well, then the job would be so much longer. So I would say this is also another sign of older iterations of the structure, older machines that perhaps were defeated long ago by other slicers, or just destroyed, or maybe decayed. I don't know. But in my mind, overwrites are when the structure fully resets itself. It lays concrete over old layers, it shifts and twists, it creates rivers, waterfalls, and oceans of sand where there weren't any, and it rebuilds anew with batches of new machines. There is even a direct piece of dialogue that ties overwrites to the concrete.
Cement. They've started another overwrite. Damn machines.
Yeah, it's that previous one that I showed you guys before, but I wanted to show it again anyway because while looking into this stuff, I realized that there's some people out there who believe that overwrites merely mean when your character dies and you reset back to a checkpoint. They believe that this is like a multiple dimension type of situation where each time that you die, a new timeline is created, which is called a new overwrite. It sounds kind of cool, and it is a way to make your deaths have like a meta significance tied with the lore of the game, but there's just not nearly enough evidence to support that, and way more evidence that supports other simpler theories. Now, outside of that and outside of these little annoyances where, for example, there's the mention of the Age of Isolation, a time period where warriors or slicers or whoever it is sealed away a bunch of these elder machines somewhere, but we don't know exactly where they sealed them away. Initially I thought, well, maybe they sealed them away in here, in these megastructures, but the megastructures themselves work against the slicers, work against humanity. And if indeed they had shoved them in here, then why come back inside to destroy them? Like, it's done, it's sealed. Go home, drink a Coca-Cola, and I don't know, eat a bacon and tuna pizza. But of course not everything has to be exactly the way that P says that it is. She could be misremembering things, or she could be running on information that is not complete. Maybe these machines were sealed away in a temporary way where one day they would have to be dealt with. Kind of like with Skyrim. The Nord warriors that were supposed to defeat Alduin couldn't do it, so they sent him forward in time. Everyone lived happily ever after for like 3,000 or 4,000 years since then, but those Nord heroes knew that someday someone was going to have to deal with Alduin again. And so it wouldn't surprise me if there are aspects that are similar to that in this game, based on the fact that whatever happened was thousands of years ago, and so these slicers may not even be privy to half of the information that Central or whoever is the leading governing body keeps from them. But sadly, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you start yapping too much without actually knowing what's going on, what's based on the lore of the game, because it's all theoretical. So let's move on to another angle. So the structures and machines are ancient leftovers of some uncontrollable entity that damn nearly destroyed humanity. Thousands of years have passed since then. The brutalist imposing megastructures are primarily what remains. We don't know who builds them, and if they truly do build themselves, we don't know who built the builders. Humanity seems to have retreated somewhere, and in that somewhere sits Central, the place that both hands out contracts to the slicers, but also builds vaults for slicers to rest between jobs. Slicers are contractors/mercenaries with no name. All they have is an assigned letter that represents their rank, making P not even a name, but just a designation. Those ranks go from A to Z, each belonging to a slicer, and the only thing that these slicers really have that seem to be personal to them as individuals is they get to choose their weapons. Slicers don't all use chainsaws. This is P's very own unique weapon, and the one thing that unites all slicers is their mantra: a fate worse than death awaits those who slice. This is a recurring line said by P, and by the end we realize that it means far more than just some silly, stylish sentence. It even goes hand in hand with a second mantra, one of the first things said to P by her operator and by P herself. Quote, "Failure is forbidden." Not just in a figurative way, but a literal one, because, now is when things start to get a little crazy. So the next thing I'll mention is a minor spoiler that is partly theory and partly part of the little tiny crumbs that the game throws at you. But then from that point on, I will continue with that finale spoiler that I mentioned earlier. So if you're basically sold on the game already and you like everything you heard to the point where you'd rather piece the rest together yourself, even though I warn you, I'm not trying to hype you up with some artificial shit. A lot of what I just laid out is my own work, grabbing a bunch of notes while I played the game, taking direct quotes from cutscenes and piecing it together with what I think the developers intended. You will not find another Metal Garden here. This is, for the most part, just a fun parkour game. But with all that said, if you do wish to stop here and just buy it and play it, then I will see you on the next one. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new and want more of this kind of content, all that jazz. Feel free to come back and continue with the rest of the analysis later, but if it's not that serious, then feel free to stick around because again, it's a small detail made bigger by taking notes, lining things up, and analyzing them. So that's enough of a spoiler warning, I would say. Let's carry on.
A fate worse than death awaits those who slice. Failure is forbidden.
Failure is forbidden because it's straight up impossible. Slicers basically cannot die. The nature of their immortality is not explained. The nature of what exactly happens to their bodies when crushed by machinery isn't either. This complicates things because I can't tell you whether slicers' bodies and souls rematerialize elsewhere when killed, or if there's some other kind of weird goddamn tomfoolery attached with the world. Some people in this small but vibrant community theorize that slicers are immortal because when they die, a new timeline starts. It's the thing that I mentioned before. They feel their death, and then they are suddenly flashed back to life, which we can see with a little animation that P does when you reset a checkpoint. They believe this is what an override is, but I don't for aforementioned reasons. The connection to concrete, for one, P talking about overrides as if it was related to the facility that we are in rather than ourselves, and also that wouldn't explain why our drones also come back to life in the situations where even the drones get crushed. I think the little animation is just for flair. It doesn't even happen always, only the first time that you die, for example to a boss. Slicers are eternally bound to this one task. We don't know if they are the result of some technological advancement or some kind of supernatural thing, but we have lore that states a few extra things in regards to it. Z is the top-ranking slicer. This makes him the fastest, the most skilled, but also the one who has experienced the most failure. P pities Z and does not want to ever be in his shoes. There have been other Zs before him, meaning that either previous Zs have ranked down, retired in some way, gone AWOL, or suffered the ultimate curse, which is being afflicted by some kind of disease that progressively turns them into machines of some kind. Our character, P, is afflicted by this the entire time that we are playing through the game. It's revealed in the end where she once more says,
"A fate worse than death. Failure is forbidden. I just hope another slicer finds you. Eventually." No point talking about this. My fate was decided long ago. Just one last stop before we ascend again, Orby.
So whatever this affliction is, it seems to be the only way that a slicer can be put out of commission. Her last remark about hoping another slicer finds Orby, her drone, alludes to the potential fact that so far every drone that we have seen and that we can send back home used to belong to a slicer that succumbed to the same affliction. What exactly happens to them, I don't know, but clearly they are turning into something. And this is another big gripe of mine. In this entire megastructure, we should have found something beyond the usual constructs. We should have found a fallen, corrupted slicer every now and then. Not only would that have made for a much more exciting and difficult combat encounter, something to add more variety because again, it's the 3 same damn machine types over and over again, but it would also have served as additional world building alongside notes or voice recordings. It would have also made this moment where P reveals that she is afflicted by the same problem all that much more important and heavier. But we got nothing. The most we ever get is this scene.
Someone was here before me and died? But how? It's dead, so it's not a slicer. But we're in a sealed structure, so could it really have been a slicer? If so, what rank? A fate worse than death.
This is where you definitively learn that slicers do not die like normal people. They can't just be whacked by a machine and fall down and stay there turning into dust. They can't just be grinded down to burgers by falling down a pit of saws or giant gears. A slicer never dies. Not like that. They don't leave behind any remains. P still seems to be doubtful about it, almost like she's considering a possibility that maybe she isn't aware of, but as far as what's established, it can't happen. What can happen is that you get afflicted by this rot, this corruption, and then you become something else. The fact we don't learn about it or see it kinda sucks, because what happens after this is, well, you did it. You reached the main pillar, the top of the megastructure, and now all that's left is to slice upwards. While you're doing that, the game plays one last track while showing you the credits. By the way, huge W for this soundtrack. I do wish there was a bit more variety. It does get a bit old, and for example, the one track that plays in those slack-off moments doesn't always fit. It fits if you're eating cookies or whatever, but when finding the skeleton or discussing Slicer Z and other more contemplative, lore-related things, it should have been the more ominous one. This isn't really the fault of the composer, this is on the developer, because I've actually been listening to the soundtrack of the game on YouTube, and there's various ambient tracks that could have been used to diversify what we're listening to while playing. Anyway, it takes a minute or two, but then things get weird as you start to see, fading in from a distance, some kind of dark circle. At first I thought it was some kind of ominous sky station housing the core of the megastructure or something like that. But as you get closer, you realize it's not a thing, it's a hole in the sky. So the sky isn't actually a sky, all the lighting in the damn place was artificial, everything was. While obviously the concrete and the sand were expected to be machine-made, it is pretty crazy to consider that this entire sprawling view across us is all artificial. This is not what the world looks like, sun included. This is not the outside. This is the megastructure. You slice up to some maintenance-looking room. In the distance there's a flashing light, you can hear thunder and rain sounds. When climbing up, you are presented with an ocean of water ahead of you. All of it inexplicably laying on top of the megastructure that you just came from. All of it seemingly bigger with another set of structures off in the distance. Then you get a black screen and...
This is Slicer P. I have arrived at the target destination. As suspected, it is an array megastructure. Requesting Central Slicer's operator. Over.
The same dialogue you hear at the very start of the game. Now what does that mean? I have no goddamn idea, fellas. It's not a loop thing, nor it was all a dream kind of thing, but it does suggest that what we saw means nothing. P is not surprised. There was no reaction from her. Again, she's just doing another job. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if this isn't new. It wouldn't be surprising to me if the place that we just saw with all the fucking water and the rain and the thunder is just another weird megastructure with its own weather. Shit, for all I know, the whole entire world is a bunch of stacked megastructures parallel to one another, like the cubes in that movie The Cube, or even some of the things that we saw in Metal Garden. I don't trust anything after the ending of Metal Garden, that's for goddamn sure. But as much as I would love to gush about this finale and theorize about it, and how I felt just the way that I did at the ending of my Metal Guard video, the truth is that it doesn't even feel interesting, it feels stacked on. Like the developers realized that they were working on a megastructure fiction and getting to the top just wasn't enough, so let's throw in some weird what the fuck moment. Because as far as the lore that is present in the game, there's so much more that's just missing to make this deep enough to be analyzed. And I found the other details about what happened thousands of years ago, what overrights are exactly, and the nature of the slicers as these undying contractors toiling away with a Sisyphean task, plus also the nature of the megastructures as entirely artificial and sentient, self-building and self-updating biomachines, to be so much more interesting than this whole thing that they presented at the end. But regardless, there we go. That is MOTORSLICE. All of this came mainly from that one soundtrack that plays at that one part that I mentioned earlier at the start of the story and premise section. I swear, maybe it sounds too video essay gay tuber or something, but if not for that track evoking this atmospheric weight of like, I don't know, contemplative liminal desolation or some shit, making me take a moment to look around me, back to the ground that I just covered and up to the places that I would eventually have to pass by, because you do, by the way, climb up this megastructure. There's no loading screens, and most of the stuff that you see, except the set dressing way off in the distance, are places that you will pass by or places that you just passed through. These little moments made me think that the developers were actually trying to do something here that has a bit more of a soul than just a fun parkour game with an anime waifu that is frankly cringe sometimes. Like, I'm not gonna lie, fellas, in each of the slacking off moments you have two dialogue options. One of them is normal, the other is utterly unhinged. Like, you're straight up Reddit simping for this character, and I don't know, fellas, it's just not exactly my speed. But since it was just an option, it's not a big deal. But in the end, of course, I still repeat, more time should have been spent fleshing out all of this other stuff rather than in simping for the anime waifu. Or, you know, maybe they could have figured out a way to do both. Give the anime waifu enthusiasts their fix, give the lore enthusiasts their fix as well, and then give me my fix as a lore enthusiast who's also into anime waifus, but you know, not their goddamn feet. Like, what the fuck is this? Kata's dream game? Overall, these developers showed great promise with a game that has some visual identity with their own unique color palette, some good ideas tied to the platforming that they can double down on in a sequel, same with the combat, and no shortage of wacky, ancient, post-apocalyptic megastructure fantasy nonsense, with some dashes of really interesting concepts that they should definitely flesh out in significant ways for the world design and the lore in their future installments. For $20 I was left satisfied, although again, replayability is not incentivized and your mileage may vary. I hope my review was of some help to you guys and whether to pick it up or not, or at least provided you with some entertainment via the analysis. Leave a like if you enjoyed the breakdown and let me know your experience with MOTORSLICE below. Thanks for watching, fellas, and I will see you all on the next one. Take care.